A landmark event for dispute resolution as 46 United Nations members signed an international treaty on commercial mediation. To be known as the Singapore Convention on Mediation, it aims to boost international trade and give businesses greater certainty by helping parties resolve cross-border disputes through the process of mediation. This means that a neutral party can help the two sides reach an agreement in a less confrontational manner, instead of long-drawn and expensive legal battles. During his formal address, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong called it a breakthrough which will benefit businesses, providing them with greater flexibility and efficiency.
The Singapore Convention on Mediation is the missing third piece in the international dispute resolution enforcement framework. Businesses will benefit from greater flexibility, efficiency, and lower costs, while states can enhance access to justice by facilitating the enforcement of mediated agreements.
The United Nations representative Stephen Mathias termed the treaty as innovative, adding that it will ensure the global acceptance of mediation as a dispute settlement mechanism.
Uncertainty surrounding the enforcement of settlement agreements had been identified as a main obstacle to the greater use of mediation. The Convention sets the standards for enforcing and invoking settlement agreements, the requirements for reliance on settlement agreements, and the grounds for refusing to grant relief.
Dispute resolution experts echoed Mathias' sentiments, saying that the convention will promote the use of mediation, especially in Asian countries, where it has existed as a means of settlement method for centuries.
You know, I am very optimistic about the future of mediation. I think it's tremendously impressive that we had so many signatories to the convention on its opening day. This augurs well for the future of that enactment and also general support for the concept of mediated settlement agreements.
Having the UN treaty named after Singapore cemented the Republic's reputation as a haven for international dispute resolution. During the Singapore Convention Week, apart from the signing ceremony, the International Insolvency Federation opened its first office outside of London for the first time.
A common understanding on issues of interest and a greater unity. This is the goal of a senior officials meeting held in southwest China's Chengdu City under the Asia-Europe Meeting Framework, or ASEM. Representatives from some 20 Asian countries shared their insights at a time of increasing and pressing challenges like protectionism, climate change, and terrorism.
So these are not challenges which any individual country can meet alone. So I think it is a very important initiative of China to hold this senior officials meeting of ASEM, which will allow all our Asian partners to exchange views, to develop common understanding, and to cooperate with each other to find out ways and means through which we can develop a win-win cooperation for the progress and development of the whole continent and the world at large.
Upholding multilateralism and an open world economy was one of the focuses of the meeting. Ma Zhaoxu, one of China's vice foreign ministers, called on ASEM members to promote economic globalization that is open, inclusive, and balanced.
We must defend a fair, free, and non-discriminatory multilateral trading regime and oppose trade protectionism and bullying practices. We need to promote trade and investment liberalization and facilitation and foster an Asia-Europe market to turn the Euro-Asian continent into a region with economic, trade, and development achievements unseen in other parts of the world.
Promoting connectivity is one of the ASEM's key goals. Vice Minister Ma said members could start with the areas most relevant to people's livelihood and strive for early harvests. Some officials suggested that more forms of exchanges could be held among the Asian partners in the future. This meeting also served as a preparation for the 14th ASEM Foreign Ministers meeting scheduled to take place in Spain in mid-December. Participants all agree that given the growing global uncertainties, in particular the rising unilateralism, it's imperative to strengthen communication and cooperation between Asia and Europe. They also say the Asian partners should work together more closely to play a more active role within the ASEM framework.
Two Asian economic heavyweights entangled in a trade dispute. Japan's cabinet approving a plan to remove South Korea from its so-called trade whitelist means Japanese exporters will now face more scrutiny and paperwork to obtain a permit to ship products to South Korea. Relations turned sour last year when a South Korean court ruled in favor of compensating laborers forced to work for Japanese companies during World War II. And then last month, Japan began regulating shipments to South Korea of high-tech materials used in the production of computer chips and semiconductors. South Korean chip makers produce nearly 2/3 of the world's memory chips, which are supplied to companies like Apple and Huawei for use in their smartphones. In response, South Korea announcing it's removing Japan from its own whitelist and other possible diplomatic measures. South Korea is also considering pulling out of a military information sharing agreement with Japan, proving that this trade dispute could expand into other areas. But it's not just a concern for countries and their economies in this part of the world. The potential fallout could shake up global tech supply chains, proving ultimately that prices of smartphones and other electronics will likely go up.
This electric car used to run on petrol. It was converted by a Thai research team. Fitting an electric motor into an existing car costs just over $6,000 excluding the battery. That's a fraction of the $35,000 cost of a basic model new electric car. The Thai government is running a pilot scheme to convert car engines, rather than wait for manufacturers to produce cheaper electric vehicles.
We think
modifying existing cars could be the way to encourage electric vehicle use and push Thai transportation forward by using green energy.
The conversion's called an EV kit. The scheme's still at the prototype stage, but these test vehicles can run for 200 kilometers on a 12-hour charge. Commercial car workshops are to be invited to join the trial.
We will observe the workshop and look for any difficulties to find the best EV kit available.
Here on the streets of Southeast Asia, the take-up of electric vehicles has been fairly slow. Many think mostly because of price. The Thai government is hoping a lower cost option might tempt more drivers to switch to electric power. Shifting to electric from petrol and diesel would be a major step in tackling climate change. Transportation generates a quarter of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. China, India, and many European countries are already pursuing legislation to ban petrol and diesel cars in future years.
Workers sift through locally produced plastic waste. It is then mixed with used plastic packaging from the US, shredded, washed twice, dried, and turned into plastic pellets for shipping to China. This clean, legal operation is in sharp contrast to the unlicensed factories that sprouted up in Malaysia last year, when the country became the #1 destination for Western plastic waste after China shut its doors. Much of the waste couldn't even be recycled and was just dumped or burned. The government has cracked down hard on the importation of plastic waste, hitting legal recyclers hard too.
It actually crippled the whole industry. For us as a legal operators, we don't import those kind of rubbish.
Malaysia's domestic waste recycling is still at a really rudimentary level, so it's not producing enough raw materials to sustain the legitimate recycling industry here.
For this current moment, the government has actually set to every importer to have at least 30% of local waste to be absorbed by each and every factory.
That means they have to import the other 70%, and that has become increasingly hard. Some would like it to be tougher still.
I think the way forward is to ban. Once it's stopped, then you can talk of regulation. Because now I think it's gone way above what can be managed by the government. So the first step in terms of protection of the country, protection of consumers is to ban, and then to see the regulatory, that means what is recyclable.
The legal recyclers say they too are all for keeping out what they call plastic rubbish, while allowing imports of recyclable plastics. They say it is vital to sustaining their industry, without which there will be no one left to recycle Malaysia's own homegrown plastic waste.